Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Be the Good podcast. I am your host, Christy McCaffrey, and I have with us here today Anil Gupta. Anil, how are you?
I'm so excited to be able to give some golden nuggets to basically change people's lives on this podcast today.
We are very excited about that too, and very, very happy to have you here. So, before we get into the powerful work that you do to help support others, can you first tell us a little backstory about yourself, more specifically about a time in your life when you say that you turned your worst day into your best day?
Yeah, that really was November 2008, and the day was a Friday. I remember it very well. The fact was that I'd lost everything in the stock market, real estate, and I had to tell my wife. I thought when would now be a good time to tell her, because it was basically the end. So I sat her down and said, honey, there's something really important and sad I need to share with you. And she said, what is it? I said, look, it's really bad news. And she looked up at me and she was a little bit concerned. And I told her, look, honey, I've lost everything in the real estate market, the stock market. We've lost the house, the cars, the college funds, everything. And Christy, you know what she said to me?
What's that?
Well, she smiled. And I thought, what's wrong with you? And I said, didn't you hear what I said? She said, yes, I heard what you said. And I thought it was something serious. I said, this is serious. What are you talking about? She said, no, honey, you've been behaving strangely. And I realized that there was something wrong. And I thought you had cancer. I thought you were dying. I don't care about the money. So,
Wow.
Christy, when you have someone say that to you and support you, she said, look, I'm here. You still have me. You still have the kids. You haven't lost everything. We'll sleep in the streets if we have to, as long as we're with you. And Christy, when you have a relationship like that, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters.
Wow. That is such a powerful response that I'm sure you weren't necessarily expecting. Like you said, you were telling her some really heavy news, but wow, the compassion that she showed up for in that moment with you, how did that shift things for you and shift your perspective?
Well, it was like rocket fuel, knowing that she's behind me no matter what I did, I could not fail. There is no failing.
Wow.
And everything changed.
Wow. And so now you coach others to find true happiness in their relationships more specifically, but can you tell us what inspired you to do that work, especially after you had this, life-changing experience? And what is your focus on primarily when you're coaching individuals or couples?
Hmm. So really, as human beings, we do everything for one reason, and that's for the feeling it gives us. We have a nice car, nice house, uh, nice clothes for the feeling it gives us. And when I help people, the feeling I get is unbelievable. And really, it's selfish in certain circumstances because I'm loving to help, but I get a good feedback and a feeling. So really, it's the feeling that I get from serving others when they're happy, when their relationships are reignited, when they're connected with their kids. It's a great feeling. So it's not work. It's really a cause and it's a movement. And I've got tools and methodologies that people just don't know that they have access to. And it's just like if you're fixing something around the house and you have the tools, you can fix it. And people just don't have the tools. They were never given a manual when they were born. They had to learn the hard way. And sometimes the lessons they learn aren't always the best lessons.
Yes. Yes. And I think that it's very interesting how your life got completely shifted into this new perspective and how you've wanted to spring that forward. And when you say that it's really oftentimes in a selfish way, it's interesting to me how many people have been on this podcast and have said that. But I agree, and I think it's really true that, and it's okay to be selfishly motivated to feel good by helping other people, because the more that we lean into that, the more we're able to create a really positive shift in the world, just by also by taking an experience that was painful or challenging for you and trying to flip it in a way that serves others. There's so much power in that. And you say that if you want to reach a life of fulfillment, there are three G's. Can you tell us what those are?
Yeah, so that there is a formula for fulfillment, which is fulfillment is equal to G times G times G. The first G is you have to give your time, your energy, your love, your commitment, your joy, your gift, your money. Give it away, but not wanting anything in return. So it has to be a pure gift. The second G, you have to be grateful for what you have and don't focus on what you don't have. Most people are focusing on what they don't have. So, Christy, if you look at your hands, when was the last time you thanked them?
Hmm. My hands specifically, not recently, but I do try to wake up every morning and thank my body and my mind for
Yeah,
functioning at a high level every day. But my hands, I have not specifically thanked, but that's a good point.
it's isn't it? And the skin, your heart, your lungs, your liver, all the things that make you function, keep you alive. So, focus on what you have and not what you don't have. And the third G is be great. Give the third G, sorry, is grow. You have to grow emotionally, physically, spiritually, and mentally. Now, the great thing about this formula is whenever you're feeling a little bit lower than you normally are feeling, ask yourself, which of those three G's do you need to work on? Do I need to work on growing, giving, or gratitude? And then when you do that, everything rises. See, most people get overwhelmed when they're a little bit sad or unhappy, and they just don't know what to do. So here you can break it down. Hey, do I need to give? Do I need to grow? Or do I need to be grateful? And if you're not sure, give. If you're not sure, be grateful. If you're not sure, grow. And you'll soon find out what the answer is. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful formula.
I love that. And I think that we've heard a lot about the gratitude piece and how, just being intentional with your gratitude can shift your energy. But I really love that you focus on those other two G's as well, the giving and the growing. The growing really does not get enough attention in our society. The importance of growing and evolving as a person, and how valuable that is to your happiness, and how that really can shift your mood if you put some intentionality into it. I just love that you focus on those three G's. And you also discuss that there's a lot of power in what we choose to focus on. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So, for example, if you're focusing on I'm overweight, I'm overweight, I'm overweight, it's not going to serve you. If you focus on I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, there's something wrong with me, it's going to persist. But if you focus on something positive, that I am strong, I am powerful, I am smart, I am successful, I am kind, I am generous, I am playful, I am fun, the mind will always go wherever you focus it. And it's just a muscle. So we are sometimes taught to focus on the negative, but if you just flip the focus, everything changes because you see things differently, you feel things differently, and you have a totally new experience. And you get a sense of abundance.
Absolutely. I've been recently working with a self-love practice, and sort of just having a mantra, a daily mantra of I love myself, which is very hard for a lot of us because it almost makes you cringe to think of saying I love myself. But what's been fascinating for me is that I've been able to sort of shift the thoughts that are regularly cycling in my head, the negative ones, and replace them with this mantra. And it could be any sort of mantra, like you said, just choosing something positive to focus on. And it's been fascinating to me how it's actually completely shifted my energy on a daily basis, uh, just by putting more of a positive spin, especially in the moments when you feel anxious or depressed or sad or frustrated. When you introduce a positive thought, it sort of becomes like an anecdote to the negativity. Do you agree?
I'll agree. Now, can I explain to you why that happens?
Yes, please do.
Okay. So, Christy, imagine you come home late at night and you come into your house and it's completely dark. You would turn on the light, wouldn't you?
Yes.
You wouldn't remove the darkness, would you? That's what people are trying to do. They're trying to remove the negativity. They're trying to remove the self-doubt, the worry, the depression. Instead of removing that, be the light. And that's what you're doing. It's huge.
Oh, I love that. I love
isn't it?
that. Because
Be the
then
light.
it takes away this like heavy, almost impossible task in your mind of removing the negativity, because the negativity, the light and the dark have to coexist, correct?
Correct.
Right. So you're saying focus on being the light, focus more on the light, but allow the dark to still be there. But you're going to feel better because you're focusing on the light. Is that correct?
Well, if you're the light, the darkness will disappear.
Oh,
It has nowhere to live.
yes. Oh, I
Okay,
love
so
that.
it's huge, really, it's huge.
Yeah. That is a really, really good tool and nugget you just gave us there.
Yeah. And in
uh,
this moment, Christy, there's no darkness, was there?
no.
No, because I see it in your face. You're lit up. Your vibrational energy has changed. You got a huge insight, and I felt it. And other people will feel it too.
Yes. Yes. It's really amazing that you can shift a moment like that just by choosing to focus on it. And you say that the common denominator in every relationship we have um, is us. So, what do you say is the importance of self awareness in our relationships, and how can we create more self awareness?
So awareness is a muscle. Awareness gives you clarity. Clarity gives you focus. Focus gives you action. Action gives you results. Results gives you momentum. It gives you everything. You cannot be in love. You cannot be joyous. You cannot be successful. You cannot be fulfilled without awareness. So you need to become aware of being aware. So how do you increase your awareness? You could have an elastic band on your wrist to remind you to be aware. You could have a post-it note on your computer and, hey, be aware. You could put a sock in your back pocket. Every time you're aware of that sock, why is that there? Oh, I have to be aware. So it's just a muscle. And as you develop this muscle, you become aware of being aware. So it's just a muscle that we haven't developed.
And what are the benefits of being more self aware?
So then awareness will give you clarity. And once you have clarity, you can choose what to focus on. And when you choose to focus on the most important things, you start to get results. You get action, then you get results. And once you start getting results, you get momentum. And then with momentum, you get everything. So it's a precursor to everything. You know, we just are not that aware because it's a muscle we haven't been taught to develop.
Yeah, that's an important point, is that it's not that something's wrong with you because you're not self aware. It's that you haven't been taught to even value self-awareness, or you haven't been taught, like you just explained, the benefits of being more self-aware. And I would imagine that this is something that you really focus and hone in on when you're talking to people in relationships, because if two people show up with a lack of self-awareness, that could be problematic, but it's common. And so you're helping people to understand, how you can enhance your relationships and increase your happiness and joy if you bring more self-awareness to the situation.
Absolutely. And you know, in couples, in relationships, men want respect, women want love.
Mm.
And you know, 95% of the situations. But what if you didn't know that? What if you ask one question to your partner? And if you ask this question to your queen, what can I do to make you feel even more loved? What else can I do? What else can I do? What else can I do? And if you just do those things, she will feel loved. Ladies, if you ask your king, what can I do to make you feel more respected? What else can I do? What else can I do? What else can I do? And if you do those things, your relationship will be completely enhanced in minutes, as long as you serve the other partner. And what happens in relationships is when you're first dating, it's 100. Whatever she says, it's amazing. Whatever he says is amazing. You're serving him, serving her. But then they get comfortable. So then it becomes 50-50, 75-25, 50-50, whatever. Then it becomes transactional. But if you make your partner your number one priority, they'll never leave you.
Hmm. And if you aren't aware of what the other needs, even just coming down to like basic female, male needs or desires, then yeah, you're just not going to know how to even ask those questions or understand why it's important to ask those questions. But man, how that could shift people's relationships if they just
Yes.
started there. Start asking those questions. How can I give you more respect? How can I give you more love?
Yeah. And the thing is, once you do that, everything changes. But most people in relationships are thinking, what about me? What
Mm-hmm.
about me? You can't do that. It's what can I do to serve you? And
Yeah.
everything changes because the other person will feel the love or the respect, and they will reciprocate in a way that's so beautiful.
That is beautiful and such great advice. Thank you for sharing that. And what would you say is the greatest value of leaning into forgiveness, empathy, and compassion in our relationships with others, but also in relationship to ourselves?
I call forgiveness is the express pathway to freedom. The quality of your life is dependent on the depth and authenticity of the forgiveness you extend to yourself and to others. It's huge. Now, I encourage people to be kind, generous, forgiving, sympathetic, and empathetic. But I disencourage, if that's a word, people to be empaths. Okay, so when you're an empath, you take on other people's energy, and it's very negative. I've never seen a happy empath. But be empathetic, be sympathetic. Say, honey, I'm sorry that you feel that way. What could I do to support you right now? By just asking quality questions and, you know, um, just be there. Just be there for them.
Yeah. And it's when you say that, what I hear from that too is that it's not your job to necessarily come in and save somebody from whatever they're struggling with. Your job is to show up and support them in whatever they're struggling, much as your wife did for you. She wasn't saying, I'm here to fix it, or I expect you to fix it. She was saying, I'm here to love you and care about you, and we'll get through this together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And one of the things men like to do and women hate is to be fixed. So
Mm,
if a woman has a problem, a man wants to fix it, don't do that.
yeah.
Just listen to her, let her be heard, let her be listened to, let her feel safe, let her feel secure, and everything will change.
Wow. Yes, that is so true. On this podcast, we often discuss the topic of community. So, can you tell me what you think the importance of community is, especially in regards to our happiness?
I honestly feel and know it's vital. If you don't have a sense of community, if you don't have community, it's a lonely experience. And then whenever you're feeling lonely, the thought process get very negative. But when you're in a community, you're not focusing on you, you're focusing on serving other people. We had a marathon here yesterday, and I was on my front porch, and I knew so many people that were running by, and we'd wave to them and clap them and encourage them. And the sense of community was so fulfilling. And that's the beautiful part. In many years ago, it was all about community. Nowadays, people are very secluded, introvert. They keep to themselves, or they don't have the social skills to be part of communities. And that's, in my opinion, one of the reasons people feel low and sad and depressed.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Yeah. And it's so important that we find ways to create more community for ourselves and lean into that more so that we can reap the benefits. And there are, I think the whole situation with COVID, unfortunately, really threw a wrench in the works, I think, for a lot of people. And almost people don't necessarily know how to get back to a place of community or a place of even the desire for community because they've gotten used to more of this isolation. But I think it's great that you're talking about that and encouraging people to be more community minded. We talk a lot on this podcast about community because to me, it's very interesting to see how many people are doing really good things out there to cultivate a community around, I mean, any sort of issue you can think of, but also just creating community for community's sake so that people feel a sense of support, a sense of you're not alone. I'm sure that when you were facing that really difficult time in 2008, you probably in some ways felt like this is only happening to me, right? But there were so many people at that time had hit a really hard point, especially financially and with the markets and everything. Did you have a moment where you were able to reach out for support to anybody else who had gone through the same thing?
Well, I didn't want to advertise it. I was
Yeah.
very embarrassed, but I had a community that I had access to. I had a community of fellow tennis players, so that kept me occupied. I was a Rotarian, so I would be serving, and this is the thing to do. In the moment you give, all your pain and suffering disappears. So I started to give and give and give and give, and it became the light.
Hmm.
So it's just the law of the universe. The more you give, the more you receive. But the intention has to be pure. You can't give in order to get back because that's not giving.
Right. And you don't get the same sense of fulfillment if you're giving from an inauthentic place. The pure fulfillment, what did you say, is really comes from doing so in a very pure way.
Yeah, one of the things that people do is they give wanting something in return, but it's very depleting. And then they get to the stage where, well, what about me? What about me? But they haven't been giving authentically. And that's
Yes.
why it's so painful.
Yes. Yes. Because when you give from a space of, I want to be able to say that I've done all of this, or I want, you know, the attention from giving and the praise for what I've done, I think, yeah, ultimately it will backfire every time because
Yeah,
it's just like the law of the universe. Like you said, when you give from a pure heart, you receive in a very pure way. But when you give from an inauthentic place, you're going to probably always end up hitting that wall of frustration and lack and feeling like the universe is not giving back to you.
yeah, it's so true. You're absolutely right. It is the law of the universe.
Yeah. I've learned it myself too, just from I've been running a nonprofit for the past 12 years, and it was born out of my own loss. I lost my mom to a rare autoimmune disease called
Oh,
scleroderma. And I just felt called and pulled to do something about it to raise awareness. So I've been creating documentary films and videos telling the patient's stories. And the most powerful thing for me in that whole process is seeing what it has been able to give the patients that we interview in terms of like a cathartic experience. Um, just being a listener, like a compassionate listener when I'm producing these videos and I'm on the other side of the camera has really driven that point home for me of I don't even need to show up and do something spectacular in order to feel like I'm really truly giving. I can show up and just actively listen and hold space for this pain that the other person is trying to handle. Um, and that's enough. I think sometimes I try to bring this up a lot on the podcast because sometimes people think in order to quote make a difference, you have to do some incredible thing, you know, that the world will say, whoa, look at what you did, or, and again,
yeah.
you're not really serving from a pure place if that's the intention, but it's in these small intentional acts that you really can create lasting impact, but also deep fulfillment.
It's true. So there's a story of a man and a young boy walking along the beach, and there's thousands of starfish dying. And the boy picks one starfish up and throws it in, and he picks up another starfish and throws it into the sea to save it. And the man says, look, there's thousands of starfish. You're not going to make a difference. What difference are you making? And the boy picked up a starfish and he said, it makes a difference to this one. And he thrown it in.
Oh,
So
I love that.
everything is connected. Um, Picking a piece of litter off the floor is an act. And in that moment, you're giving. In that moment, you're grateful that you're able to do it. And in that moment, you're growing. So it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't have to be big. You know, a smile is a gift.
That's so true. And I think that's so easily forgotten that could be the thing you focus on every single day is, giving out X amount of smiles along your way. I try really hard to do that, honestly, because I feel like when you smile at somebody, it actually can completely change their day. If you're in a bad mood or you wake up with bad news or, you're just kind of heading into your day with a negative perspective, it could just take one person smiling at you in that moment for you to shift your energy for the rest of the day. And what an amazing gift to give. And you might smile at somebody and it may do nothing for them. But I think it's always worth trying to, have focus on that type of practice because you really can make a difference in those simple acts.
Yeah, and it's a muscle. And there's something that people need to know. We never know what other people are going through. We never know. I'm a coach. I coach people. And some of the stories people tell me, I thought I never knew that that was something that existed. I never knew that you were going through that. You looked, happy, but I didn't know that. So we never know what people are going through.
Yeah. And that's why
Uh,
compassion goes a long way.
yeah. And a smile could be the thing that saves them from a suicidal thought. We
Yeah.
never know.
Wow. Yes, it's
People will
such,
always remember how you made them feel. There
yes.
are two types of people, Christy, on the planet. Ones that make you happy when you enter a room, ones that make you happy when you leave a room. That's it.
Wow.
Which one are
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. It's something to really think about. And
Yeah,
what again
absolutely.
to your point of how sort of obsessed we can be with our own, selves that we don't really even stop to think about that. How can I show up in the room that I'm about to enter and bring more joy just by my presence? How can I leave a room and leave more joy because of my presence? It's just a matter of being intentional, aware, as you said, and caring about what your energy does to those around you, no matter where you go and no matter who you're with.
And there's one sentence. If the viewers and listeners take this one sentence on, it will change their lives. And it's this: be so amazing that you cannot be ignored. And if you are ignored, it doesn't matter because how you show up on this planet will be totally different.
Ooh,
Be so amazing you cannot be ignored. You felt that, didn't you?
I did. I did. And I really like that. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like just focus on how you can be the light, be the good, which is what we're always talking about here, and focus less on, how it's perceived or how it's received. Just keep showing up in that light because you won't regret it. It will come to dictate your experience when you focus on it that way. I love all these little nuggets you're sharing with us. So thank
Yeah,
you for
no.
that. You also have a best-selling book titled Immediate Happiness, Be Happy Now Using Practical Steps with Immediate Proven Results. There's the book. He's holding it up for us. Can you tell us more about this book? What inspired you to write it, and what are the greatest takeaways for readers?
So I remember sitting down, and I think a few years after 2008, it was around 2013. A friend of mine said, Anil, have you thought of writing a book? And I said, no. I said, look, you've overcome so many struggles. You should share it with the world. I said, I have no idea how to write a book. And he said, well, I do. So he helped me to write the book. He showed me what to do. overcome some limiting beliefs, some belief systems that I had about who'd want to read my book. And he said, look, every day you delay, someone is suffering. It's
Mhm.
not about you. I was thinking, what will people think? What will people say? Do I want to share my story? Blah, 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 blah. But what he said was that every day I delay writing the book, someone is suffering. It's not about me. It's about the difference I make. And that changed everything. And, we were never given a manual. And this book, it's called Immediate Happiness. It's on Amazon. It's on a manual on how human beings behave. Why do we get upset? Why do we feel the way we feel? As human beings, we love to be right. We're meaning-making machines. We have filters. We have issues around forgiveness, letting go. And once you realize that, your level of awareness goes up, and then you can take action and really get to the heart of the matter, which is you and your happiness and your fulfillment. So it's a manual.
That's amazing. So it's like a roadmap basically on how to navigate all of these sort of uphill battles we have and all the things that we've learned and all the ways that we, limit ourselves really, how to work through them, process them, and then end up happier as a result. Is that correct?
Correct. And it's basically tools and methodologies that you may not have access to. And it just increases the tools that you have in your tool chest, that you can use as and when needed.
That's fantastic. Well, I know that you've really been all over the world speaking these methodologies and teaching your wisdom. So you've spoken in 18 countries, 4 continents, and in 8 languages to very large audiences. What would you say is the most common feedback you get regarding your work and the value that you offer to those who hear you speak?
It's really the simple tools. They're simple, but they're not necessarily easy to implement. And the formula for happiness, which is H equals a G cubed, fulfillment equals G cubed, and the different methodologies, tools that I share, like today, be so amazing that you cannot be ignored. Awareness gives you clarity, gives you focus, gives you action, gives you results, gives you momentum, gives you everything. And they they can just focus on the now and say, oh, if I did this, I could get this. If I did this, my life would change. So it's really awareness. It's increasing the level of awareness.
And then giving some really important tools to work through it. So I'm so glad that you shared a little bit about the book too, so that people can access your wisdom there. So I will be sure to link that in the show notes here. But before we hop off here, can you tell us how else we can follow along with your work and how else we can access, all it is that you're putting out there?
Yeah, so my website is meetanil.com. And if you're struggling in any relationship and you want some clarity, I'm happy to offer 10 sessions. I can't do more than 10 free sessions. It'll take up all my time, but up to 10 sessions. If you go to chatwithanil.com, and you can book a private clarity discovery call with me, and I'll give you some tools and methodologies that will absolutely enhance your relationship with yourself and with the people that you love.
Oh, thank you so much for offering that. That is a really great offer. And I hope that listeners will take you up on that because also, if you just go to your website, you see some pretty powerful testimonials. I mean, you had one with who was the famous boxer?
Oh, Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson. Yes. Sorry,
Yeah.
I had a blank there for a second. Yeah, I mean you've done some work with some pretty high profile people as well, and I think your work just really is something that everybody and anybody can tap into and gain a lot of really valuable tools from. So thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you for all the good that you're putting out into the world. That's really what this whole podcast is about, and I'm so happy to share with my listeners all of the good wisdom and nuggets you share with us today. So thank you for being here.
No, my pleasure. And, in closing, I'd ask all the listeners to perform 5 random acts of kindness today and notice how you feel. And I promise you, the feeling you'll get will be amazing.